What's poppin', yo? It looks like FaZe Banks and the other investor in FaZe is finally getting their revenge on the, well, now core boys, because these guys are starting to run into some monetary issues.
There was one quote for $100,000, but that wasn't even fiber. There's no way, bro. That's insane. That's insane.
So we're never getting Wi-Fi here.
I mean, I'll pay. Oh my God, what?
You'll pay $100,000.
$100,000. Wait, hold on. Let me do the math. $100,000 divided by 6, bro. Because it's 6 of us. Bro, I would pay that. I would pay $16,000 to get Wi-Fi for what, a year? I would do that. Bro, fiber is worth it.
Yeah, but that's not even counting the monthly payment on it.
Which is what, $5K a month?
So these guys got a gigantic new crib. It was a $10 million plus house. They're paying about, I think, like $55,000 a month, which isn't too bad. You've got 6 of them. So they're all paying under 10 grand a month for a gigantic living space. And they've got a pool, space to do content, all that other stuff. Well, this brings you a new problem because they're in the mountains. They need some internet. And in order to get that internet, they want fiber. They want the fastest internet. What you are going to have to do is get somebody to go up there and drill in there. Now, a lot of people are saying like, yo, why is this so expensive? Yeah, the people have to drill in there and they're in the mountains. This has happened consistently with so many content houses. Like there was the house in Las Vegas for NRG, I believe it was. It was called the Thum House, where it was Daquan and Hamlin's, and they had a bunch of other people. And I think there was maybe a little bit of cap there where they were saying that, no, we didn't really stream that much because the internet wasn't like that. And these guys were provided a ton of resources. They were provided a cameraman, etc. They tried to put their homies on, a bunch of random streamers that were friends of theirs. So they just finessed NRG out of a huge bag. But I would quote tweet this and I would say, this is why you need a FaZe Banks. 6 of these guys put their brains together and got a $10 million house without even checking if the most important and valuable thing that they need for their job, the highest speed internet you can get, is working well. And some people are saying stuff like, well, they could just get Starlink. And these people are so funny. Number one, these guys are live streaming, which is the most demanding thing for internet. They are in a gigantic house, so they all need to be able to use the same internet. And in order to use the same internet, you're going to have 5 people streaming across different sides of the house. And to be able to stream to the viewership that they have, yes, you need the highest internet. You need enterprise level internet. And when you need enterprise level stuff, you're going to get enterprise pricing. And that's where things get really expensive. And these guys, they didn't factor this in when they got their own crib. But this is stuff that a FaZe Banks would factor in. Maybe not FaZe Banks directly, but somebody that runs business stuff. And FaZe Banks would reply to this and he would quote tweet it and say the following: plot twist. Their internet's actually free, but FaZe Banks discovered a way to cut the lines and scam them for $100,000 by cleverly disguising himself as a Google Fiber rep to fix it. Classic Banks move. Now, this is in reference to saying that, FaZe Banks is just trying to finesse them. They were just trying to get money out of them. When keep in mind, and I've said this when this was going on, FaZe made $0 on these guys. Zero. These guys were the ones that benefited. You look at when FaZe was put together, look at each of their streamer stats. You can look this up yourself and you see the before and after, and it's a straight shot up. The only person that was part of FaZe before that was Stable Ronaldo, and Stable Ronaldo had grinded it up himself. So he didn't necessarily blow up because of FaZe, because, well, they did take an interest into him, and FaZe Banks was early on Ronaldo's comeback, because Ronaldo fell off the map, was like at 100, 200, 300 viewers, maybe at that, and then now he's one of the biggest streamers, and he was in FaZe, and then Your Rage was also in FaZe. So where was the money that FaZe took advantage of these guys and made? Well, what's a single dollar that they made? Oh, a sponsor that costs 10 grand. You see how much internet costs? And like we said, the reason why it costs so much is because that area does not have the fiber that they're looking for. And it's probably because there's so much space in that area and other people don't need that type of internet that these guys want to have. It's why sometimes you have a certain providers in a certain place. Like maybe this has happened in your neighborhood where somebody will eventually, like let's say Verizon or something. They're like, okay, we have fiber now in your area. So now you're able to get it. But before that, you didn't. Well, the reason why you have it in your area is because the company, Verizon in this scenario, felt that it would be profitable for them and it made financial sense to drill and do all of the expensive heavy lifting to get it installed in that place to be able to then service the individuals. And if you've got thousands of people in an area, 10,000 plus, and you can convert, I don't know, let's say 1,000 of them, 5,000 into better internet with a better service, it makes sense. But these guys are trying to do the same thing for 6 people. And that's why it's going to cost so much. And that's why they're getting that big quote. But one of the co-investors, the guy that brought back FaZe, Matt Kalish, he would actually also respond to my tweet and say something quite positive. He would say, people be trolling, but I'm proud to see this growth unfold. To create, run, own, core, create, own, run everything, that's their thing, means to operate 100% of the business and be where the buck stops. A realistic view of everything that goes into success makes you better. Streaming content and making audience happy is critical and what they do best. Learning everything else around that is 80% of the work that makes you Mr. Beast versus some random org gone in a year or two. And this guy, he was the guy that invested and brought back FaZe. He's the co-founder of DraftKings. So yeah, he's up ridiculously. And he makes a good point here, or an amazing point, because now you see the interaction between Lacey and Jason the Ween. Jason's looking at him like, yeah, like I'd pay 16 grand for this. And then that, I think they would have to pay $5K a month or something like that for the monthly cost to operate this. And then you see Lacey saying like, damn, this is expensive. Now keep in mind, they're not even asking the 4 other guys. So here it looks like you've already got, I wouldn't say friction between these two, but you've got a little bit of oh man, Lacey, he would be down for it. But then you bring the 3rd person, the 4th, the 5th. Maybe the 5th person says, yo, 16K, that's like, listen, I don't got the viewership you guys got. I'm not making the money you guys got. And now you start to run into issues. And it's also, well, how are these guys making money as a group? I was going to say music, like they're a music group. How are they making money as a group? Because this is a group cost. Yeah, they have to put it in, but remember how they said, like we said, they got cheaper rent, 55K or whatever. Now they have to add this other expense. This was not something that they expected that they would have to add. And who knows what other expenses come across. And like Matt Kalish was saying, he said these guys are the best at making the content. When you have to deal with stuff like this, you're stressed. You're thinking like, oh my goodness, we got to figure out the internet. Okay, the house just sprung a leak. Something's going to happen to this house. Of course, they had to pay some expenses with the last FaZe house. So that's going to happen. And all of that, all of these tiny little stresses take away from doing what they do best, which is the content piece. Mr. Beast was just somebody that, frankly, he was more of the business guy than the actual content guy. Even early on in his career, he was very systems focused. Mr. Beast was the host. He was never the content. It was even his friends. Like, he would get his friends involved early on. He would have like people like Sneeko worked for him early on versus these guys. These guys were the content. iShowSpeed is the content. And somebody that is the content is, I don't like to use the word never, but as close to never as you could get. Also somebody that can run the systems and back end and everything else. That's why you have people like a Ye, people like a Drake. All of these guys, they have a manager at the top because they want to do what they do best, which is perform, have the vision, make the music, and then it's the people's team, it's their team, responsibility to make sure that the vision comes to life. And they handle all the other stuff. Like, okay, let's call this guy. Let's see if we have the material to put together this gigantic globe that Ye has in mind. They have to do all that other type of stuff. Same thing with Drake. Okay, let's see if we can hit up the State Department. This guy's in Canada. But let's see if we can hit up the city and tell them like, yo, Drake needs the CN Tower from these dates. How much would it cost for us to be able to use this? He also needs to put this gigantic ice block on there. Drake wouldn't be able to make music and do everything that he does if he had to rely on those tiny things. And it would harm the music because now you're dealing with all these tiny little nuisances. But Matt Kalish would also hop on a podcast and explain what happened with FaZe. I think this is the first time he's actually spoken on it.
I think the speculation was that you guys tried to sign them to some kind of 360 deal where it's like, we'll take 20% of all your money and you get to be in something like this. Is this not what happened?
Call in anyone and ask them if they got shown a deal to give them 20% of their money.
This is what the internet thinks, right? I don't.
It's fake, man. That's fake.
So you just don't think that there was a way to get money out of it? But I'm sure.
Yeah, call like Swag. Ask Swag if he was ever asked for anything. Ask Your Rage if he was ever asked for anything. Ask, you know what I'm saying? Literally all the losses were really just tied to one thing, which was the content house, the streamer content house lost $7 million a year. And so the conversation was like, all good, but that endless funding is not going to continue into the future. So we can either come up with a way to make it sustainable or just say, let's be independent, like work on projects. You know what I'm saying? Like work on projects you want to work on. If there's some overlap, great. I don't think FaZe is anything but like forever. I just think the model was broken and it ran out of people willing to continue to lose money funding a model that had basically no revenue.
This makes complete sense. And it goes back to what I was saying about these guys. They want this guy to continue incurring the cost, the company, for $7 million a year. And he just came to them. He's like, hey, look, this is really expensive. Is there a path for us to make money? And those guys threw a fit like kids and said, well, you want to take money from us? Like we had a deal. And it's like, okay, well, go on your, and you know what the funny thing is? Now they are in the same position where they have to pay for their own content house that's going to be bleeding money. And initially I said I'd be surprised if they could get their heads together and actually come together for a house because of the disparity in income. But they were able to do it, which was very impressive. But let's see how long it lasts, because this guy said it was their most expensive cost. It wasn't anything associated with that. It was the content house. And now these guys have a content house. So we're about to see how much that costs them, if they are able to sustain it, if they're able to make a way to make money. Because right now, what are they making money from? Okay, each of their individual streams, which is something that they could have done. And some people say their YouTube is making money. No, it's not. Their YouTube is losing money. The editors, the designers, the filmers, all of that other stuff that they're paying for, and they're paying top dollar for that. You best believe that. The producers, they're sinking costs a lot. And part of it is to stay lit. But we're about to see how they can make money from it, because all of these other orgs have failed. And we'll see if they're able to be the first ones to make it happen. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is Matt Kalish, FaZe Banks, are these guys the evil ones, or were they just right all along and this should have just never happened? I think this just didn't need to happen in the first place. Like, yeah, it was cool that FaZe Banks put it together, but I want to know what the conversation was like for Banks to convince somebody to put money behind this when there was no path for it to ever be profitable. There was zero, because these guys would never be willing to pay or give a percentage. And I think that would have been fair. Give a percentage initially. Like, you can't give them this stuff for a year and then be like, yo, we want a percentage, which Matt Kalish is even saying they never asked for a percentage. And these guys vaguely talk about it whenever it's mentioned. They're like, oh, well, I knew they were doing some weird stuff. Yeah, ever since they gave them the house is not free. That's what Your Rage was talking about. It's like, yeah, well, nothing is free, but it seemed like the house was free because they didn't pay anything. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all on the next one.